Good morning, everybody. My name is Keenan. Welcome to the December 2nd, 2021 weekly DXdao community call. I hope Thanksgiving was great for those of you that had the chance to celebrate it last week. Today, we'll be running through an extension to the DXD Buyback program, an update to our swapper emissions, the Initiative Dao idea, and a lot more. If you haven't seen yet, we announced the Carrot Alpha last week, our latest product. If Carrot's new to you, we'll be doing a quick review today, as well as a quick chat about a Carrot AMA slotted for next week, but more on that in a bit. Let's get started right away here. First up, we have some recap, starting with DXBiz. Sky, if you'd like to take that away.
Sure. A lot of different topics in the DXBiz space. We actually had B protocol and Liquidity, which B protocol runs on top of Liquidity, join the DXBiz call and present. It's an interesting additional way to earn yield, like on your ETH in a stable coin based protocol. And so they presented on like kind of it's like part of optimizing your treasury management. And so that's something that DXdao is considering. A couple other key like immediate things are there's also obviously the XDAI Gnosis proposed merger, which is happening. The snapshots are live. There's already a bunch of voting on it, and it's looking like it most likely will pass from both communities, the XDAI and Gnosis communities. As part of that, the current XDAI community, which includes DXdao and all the projects and teams that have been building on XDAI for quite a while now, formed a XDAI community DAO, which basically is a group, currently a multi-sig, could be a DAO, to represent that like existing community in this new world this new chain world, which looks likely to happen. And so that can include things like representing the people, but also as a voice, but also a place where it could receive specifically GNO rewards, which are going to be dedicated to this new ecosystem, to make sure that a decent amount of the incentives get into the hands of the projects and that have been building on XDAI basically, and don't just get forgotten about. So that's a really interesting, like, community driven from the ground up, like lots of projects in the XDAI space, like working together now to like represent themselves in what could be a new world. There's also a couple interesting DX Ventures opportunities, and actually a third one which we've just started talking about, where one is like could be DXDAO's first venture into the metaverse through a investment grant into Atlantis World, which is a 2D metaverse, and with a investment there, DXDAO would basically establish a presence and could start embedding its products and its DAO and its DAO tooling and stuff into that ecosystem, which would be great for awareness of DXdao. There's a lot of really interesting projects that are also mainly from the DeFi space that are also attached to Atlantis World. So it's a really interesting, like, smart team that's building it. Secondly, there's Double, which is a unique DeFi protocol based on which is an opportunity that seems to be supported in the community, that solves like kind of a go in between something like Aqua and Swapper, where it's a tool to help projects and people that don't have both sides of liquidity get the other side of liquidity to provide capital into a pool. And then we're going to talk about Carrot later, but I guess the last thing I'll touch on is there's also some talk about the idea of creating an Initiative Dao, which I think everyone this is like kind of a sub DAO, internal DAO, and it's a DAO to like have funds set aside that hopefully anyone in the community with good ideas with like smaller amounts could like take action very quickly to try those ideas, easily get the funds from this Initiative Dao, and then and then try some experiment that will somehow benefit DXdao in some way. And that can be marketing, that could be development, that could be a bounty, that could be, a game, that could be really anything. So creating that system. And I think there's a few different ways to think about, or a few different ways to implement something like that. But if we're not going to agree on exactly how to do it, we kind of just want to probably move forward. So we might do a proposal to like get a certain amount of funds, say, $7,000, like out of the DAO into a, either a sub DAO or a multi-sig that could take actions quickly, and then leave it up to a delegated team to kind of figure out the details of, should this go to people only with rep at first, or should it go to anyone with a good idea from the community? We just want to have some things in place so that people don't take the money and go away and do nothing, but we want to be able to like get that money out quickly to people that can try new ideas that could help benefit DXdao. And so I think we should get to a on-chain proposal for that with some guidelines that would move the money, hopefully this week, yeah. And then we could start experimenting with that as well. So that's kind of a recap of a few of the different things happening in that world. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sky. For our second recap today, will be a little bit different than we've traditionally done our recaps. We'll be kind of recapping the launch of Carrot, what it is, how it works. I know not everyone attends every single call, so just a quick call of attention. I'm not sure, Sky, if that's also you.
Well, since I did it last week, maybe to get a new perspective, I don't know if John wants to, or someone wants to give a perspective. Otherwise, I can do it.
Yeah, I'm happy to, though I was not on the call last week with the Thanksgiving holiday, so I have no idea how you presented it last week, and I haven't watched the call yet. But yeah, and last week did March, I think it was actually on Thanksgiving, was when the first distribution of Carrot tokens kicked off with the latest swapper epoch. So this is sort of it's an alpha. It's the first launch of Carrot, which I think of as programmable incentives, right? So it's a way for projects, teams, individuals to add conditions on the incentives they are providing, which will give them more control, hopefully give them better value for their incentive capital that they're spending, right? So the first couple campaigns here are demonstrating two types of campaigns that Carrot supports. One is a binary, like a yes or no outcome, and the other is a scalar, which provides a range of possible outcomes. So the basic way it works is you lock up collateral in Carrot. That is the ultimate reward token that mints what we call Carrot tokens, the actual incentive. And sorry, I was just checking the chat. And so once you have that incentive token, the project then can give that out, right? And you could do it in different ways. The way DXdao is doing it is through swapper farming campaigns. And because they're DIY farming in swapper, this is actually available to any other projects too, although I don't know if it currently supports the multiple rewards in the UI, but it's definitely possible at the smart contract level. And yeah, so once, so there's ways you can give them out. Ultimately, it comes down to the condition, whether they can be redeemed for the collateral. So the scalar option is tied to the TVL of the DXdETH pool on XDAI. And I forget the exact range. I think it's something like 800K to 1.5 million. I could be wrong on that, but if it hits 800K, that's when it starts to pay out, right? Anything below that, the Carrot tokens are worthless. If the TVL gets to 1.5 million, then the full collateral is paid out and they're worth the maximum amount. So the Carrot tokens are basically providing up to a certain APY when they're minted out. I don't know if we've seen it yet, but I also imagine that you could have secondary market trading of carrots if people want to sell them before the maturity of that token, right? So they only pay out after the end date. It's the average TVL over December, so these tokens won't pay out until January, but I could imagine some people selling them ahead of time for the discount. And then the binary one is tied to the price of swapper, and it's incentivizing also the swapper XDAI pair. So it's actually incentivizing TVL in the swapper XDAI pair because it's being used in that farming campaign. But the metric, the condition is, will the price of swapper be over 20 cents on average for the month of December? So it's a way to kind of, make that incentive for the TVL conditional on the actual price, maybe deter some dumping, or make sure that the community, the swapper community, is getting the results it wants around the price. So very exciting. I think there's tons of possibilities for Carrot. Maybe TVL and price is kind of the obvious ones, but you could imagine it being used to incentivize contributions. I could imagine this being a basic building block for communities, governance, and the future of work. I think you could do some other neat kind of conditional things using the carrots too, and you could incentivize all matters of stuff. So that's my recap.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you, John. One thing worth mentioning, I'm not sure if you did, but although the distribution started on Thanksgiving last Thursday, the actual date range for the conditions is from December 1st to the 31st. So as of yesterday, and you can now see this in the campaigns, Carrot is actively parsing data through Swapper. So you can see on the TVL campaign, you can see the average TVL for December 1st and 2nd already. And same thing for the price campaign. You can see the price in the UI. So obviously take a look at that as well. It's a cool thing to follow if you are participating. Cool. I don't have any questions lined up for the recap section. So let's move on here to our next portion, talking about the DXD buyback extension and ETH staking recap. Do we have Dave around?
I think the community is also very much looking forward to hearing Chris's voice, who was at Thanksgiving last week. But I'm also happy to give a brief update. So, we ran over the buyback last week as well on the community call. The one thing that changed in the meantime is that we already have an extension proposal up on the forum. So as I mentioned in the previous week, we changed a bit the methodology around calculating buyback amounts. So we kind of build up a bit quicker than expected. And the new proposal extension is also for $1 million. However, there is a slight change as well in how we'll do this operationally, in that we just determined the price of $1 million in Ether at the time when the proposal was posted. And then we can just deposit this exact amount of Ether directly into the GPV1 relayer. That just kind of makes it easier to track how much is left and make sure we get the buybacks extensions out on time as well, so we can just keep submitting the buybacks at a good pace. And that's pretty much all there is on the new buyback proposal. The rest is all the same, using our more recent approach where we just submit multi-calls then, given that the funds will already be in the GPV1 relayer. And the other topic is the staking of ETH. So this proposal has been live on the forum for a couple of weeks, I believe, and the proposals were submitted on-chain yesterday. So I would say this is kind of like dipping our toes in the water with 1,000 Ether being staked among 3 different platforms, which is Lido, Stakewise, and RETH, the Rocket Pool ETH, I believe it is. And very excited about taking that step with the Treasury, even if it's not, I don't think it's our final process, but it's kind of like our first tangible move towards yielding on some of our assets, especially Ethereum, where we still maintain the exposure to Ethereum, which is something I know a lot of the contributors in community in general is very keen on. So definitely very excited for that. And as I said, the proposals are live, so expecting them to pass next week. And that's pretty much it from my side.
Thank you, Dave. I'm not sure, Chris, if you had anything to add to that.
No, maybe in a more beautiful voice, but that summed it up well.
Excellent. I actually don't have a question for you guys. I do have a comment, though. It just says, thank you for the consistent updates on the sheet and calls. So hopefully that makes you smile today. But nothing else there. Open to any questions that we can answer. But we'll move on here to the swapper emissions for Epoch 7 and 5. Just going to bring the sheet up here into the chat. Cool. So yeah, Epoch 5 and 7, 5 for mainnet XDAI, of course, 7 for Arbitrum. We'll start with mainnet. There was very minor changes to mainnet. If you did 1 to 4 were deployed on mainnet at the same time to keep things linear, to remove gas fees, etc. And the same thing has happened again here. We've deployed, or will be deploying rather, Epochs 5 to 8 together. And then it's the same pairs: Swapper against ETH, DXD against ETH, and DAI against ETH, which you can see visually here. Very minor changes, as I mentioned, a slight increase to DXD and a slight subtraction to DAI against ETH. Nothing too out of the ordinary, just minor tuning when weighing the performance of the first 4 epochs. For XDAI, once again, nothing incredibly out of the ordinary, some minor additions and changes. We did add Curve against XDAI as a pool to test out. That was considering some community feedback and suggestions. But again, nothing incredibly out of the ordinary. There may be something exciting about stake. If you've been paying attention, we did pass a proposal through stake governments for some stake rewards on. We don't have a definitive confirmation yet for you if this will be the coming epoch or the following after that, but you can expect to know more about that for sure on Monday. But again, nothing incredibly out of the ordinary. Here, a minor change, which has been put in the chat. I just do a couple buyback questions. We'll just finish the swapper changes and we'll head back to the buyback for a minute. And the last thing is, again, on Arbitrum, very, very minor changes, a slight reduction to the link against ETH pool and a slight addition to the unallocated fund. But the bigger change this epoch is, more importantly, the reason there's a slight addition to unallocated. With the holidays coming up, there'll be a slight change in cadence for the epochs, particularly on Arbitrum. I don't believe XDAI will be seeing much of a change. Epoch 7 will be deployed as a single epoch on Arbitrum for a majority of pairs, whereas the pairs that we're happy with the performance of, that we've already deployed in batches of 2 previous to this, they'll be deployed in 3s. So you can expect Swapper against ETH, USDC ETH, Rat Bitcoin, DXD Curve, as well as the IBBTC and Badger pools to have their epochs extended to 3 on Arbitrum. Reason being for this is not this epoch, but next epoch. The following will actually run through the holidays. It'll be a little bit more difficult to coordinate to get this all through governance. And additionally, we don't want to be taking people away from their families over the holidays. So we thought that having a single epoch extension over that period of time would make a lot of sense. So there would be a 2 epoch combination after Epoch 7 on Arbitrum. So for clarity, Epoch 8 will have basically all proposals be lasting 2 epochs. You can see this a bit more visually, a formal announcement, but expect a little bit less staking and unstaking in Arbitrum and potentially XDAI over the holiday season. And I think that's all for me. I do have a couple questions I'm not sure I have the answer to. We have what's the single-sided staking status? I know there's a proposal live, I believe is passing in favor. I'm not completely up to date on that, though. I'm not sure. Zet, maybe?
Yeah, we are aiming to, we have a internal date where we are working towards. So next week is, I just said the date, so now it will not happen. But we try to aim to release it next week. So that doesn't mean everything will be done next week, but that's the aim, right? And we are currently building the front end for it, and the smart contracts are basically done. We're using the farming contracts for it. So yeah, some like in December, if I can say so. And that's you'll hear about it more next week.
Yeah, thank you, Zet. So if I'm correct, I'm just looking at the snap. The proposal is over and it has passed in favor. That's correct?
So this is the singular proposal that didn't count the staked swapper, right? I think it is.
That's correct. It's only Arbitrum Swapper, I believe.
Yeah. So we were thinking about doing another one to just get all the voices, because most people actually are LPing Swapper or having it somewhere else. So I think it's fair to do another one, but yeah, we need to run that through the community again. I think we had one big Swapper whale that voted no, and obviously we want to hear why, and see if we could listen into what the community wants to do.
That was actually the other question left with me, is why did the largest holder vote against single-sided staking? I don't know if that's accurate or not, being the largest holder, but a very interesting question. I don't believe we have the answer to. I think we're patiently awaiting this community member to reach out on why they are against this vote particularly, so we can help kind of craft that forward.
I mean, I would like to hear from anyone why they think no would be an answer, and how we could work.
If I were to speculate, my only guess would be that they just want less emissions. I mean, that's the thing that I would imagine.
So if you're super bullish on Swapper, obviously, if like this guy, he's a huge LP whale, and he or she doesn't want a more Swapper to be released, he's betting on an LPing to a certain time probably. So this is all speculation, but this is what I also thought about. If you're bullish on Swapper, you don't want more Swapper to be released. So we basically also have in the end of this year, in 30 days, whoever that didn't claim the airdrop, that Swapper will be sent back to the treasury, and so that's even more Swapper that hasn't been released to the community. That's the speculation of it. But I would also like to hear why, and if there's more people that doesn't want single token staking to happen.
Well, just another speculation would be, I guess, would people maybe take their swapper out of swapper ETH pools and then choose to do the single-sided staking, so that maybe it would decrease the swapper liquidity or be less attractive?
Potentially. It is worth noting that in the ramp-up period is a very small, comparative to the Swapper ETH emissions, of course, small portion of Swapper. Obviously less IL, so if you're bullish on Swapper, you'd want to enter that pool. But definitely a consideration, especially if the amount of Swapper emitted from it were to ramp up. We seem to be having some crowdsourced identification here in the chat. trying to figure out who this is.
I have a thought/question maybe for you, Keenan.
Shoot.
To turn the tables here. But so if we have this upcoming stake incentives added to XDAI, and as I understand it, they're fairly substantial. And I know like a common frustration, I think, for people has been once you're on Arbitrum layer 2, it's a 7-day wait time to exit, unless it's an asset that you can bridge over one of the bridging services. So like I think ETH and stable coins, like the bigger stable coins like USDC and DAI, you could actually move from XDAI to Arbitrum over bridges like HOP or others. But I don't think this is available for assets like Swapper and DXD yet. And so I'm just wondering, is there anything people should be thinking ahead on in terms of these upcoming incentives on XDAI?
Right. Yeah, like I mentioned, we did have a proposal pass through governance, stake governance. We were delegated, I believe, $200,000 worth of stake rewards to be emitted over the next 8 weeks. But we are yet to choose a start date, just kind of confirming that internally. Obviously, if it were to start in this coming epoch, that would be 7 days from now. So if you'd like to get in on stake emissions and believe that those will come out this coming Thursday, you should probably start bridging over any assets that you would like moved to XDAI. Obviously, Arbitrum, as mentioned, has a 7-day wait period. So if you're looking for DXD or Swapper particularly, probably a good opportunity there. Obviously, no comment until there's anything confirmed, of course, and not saying yes or no here to it starting next week. But if it were not to, we could safely expect rewards to start on the 23rd of December, I would say. I'm not sure. Obviously, we still need to run through this, and I'd expect a formal answer this coming Monday. But I'm not sure there's anything more I can offer beyond that now.
Yeah, obviously you don't know until the proposals are made and things are finalized, but probably worth noting that I think the team here is actively working to try to get some stake incentives actually moving next epoch, right?
Yes, that's correct. We're thinking of, in the event that we won't deploy on all of our pairs, at least incentivizing the stake pair, potentially some others as well, but I think stake is the primary focus. So if you have stake, I doubt that there's much stake on Arbitrum, but if you wanted to move stake to XDAI, I would suggest doing so now.
Yeah, that really only applies if it's on Arbitrum, because obviously the mainnet to XDAI bridge is pretty fast. So thanks.
Yes,
thanks,
that's correct. Perfect.
Just to pitch on that, though, because we do have mainnet proposals that are live as of yesterday, that have been boosted, that will launch in 7 days. And so those are in DXD WETH, Swapper WETH, and I think the APYs on those have been higher than Arbitrum. So if people are interested in participating in those, they could send the funds now, and it would arrive in time for when those proposals pass next Thursday. Or expected to pass next Thursday.
Yeah, great point. And probably goes without saying, but of course, gas costs are significant on mainnet, and that's why the campaign periods are longer on mainnet. But still, if you're certain, you basically need a certain size of investment or funds for it to be worth the gas costs.
Just to reiterate, actually, because as Keenan mentioned in the beginning, there was a small increase to the DXD WETH pair allocation for the mainnet rewards. So that's like kind of added incentive for any of the DXD WETH liquidity providers in Arbitrum, that there actually are a little bit more rewards going to mainnet this epoch, or for the next 4 epochs.
Perfect. Thank you very much, guys. Just taking a look here to the buyback discussion I missed. Anything in particular to chat about here? Maybe Chris is caught up.
Yeah, I think Dave explained it in the chat. It was the question about whether there was moving the 3% premium to 4%. I think the last two proposals had been submitted at 3%. So just to recap, these proposals can be submitted from 2.5% to 5% above the swapper. The DXD WETH price on swapper. That is up to basically discretion of the submitter, and Dave's been doing that mostly lately. And typically we adjust that based upon whether or not the orders are being filled. And actually, because I think the cross-chain bridges that John was mentioning, there's actually been a lot more, I think, activity on filling the orders on DXdao. And so we have not needed that 4% premium. And so the last two proposals are trying it with the 3%, but I actually don't think any of the 3% proposals have passed yet. But I think in Friday maybe we'll start to see those. But I expect those orders to be filled just as easily as the ones have been the last month or so.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Moving on here, we have our next topic, the Initiative Dao idea. Sky chatted a bit about it in the DXBiz recap, but a dedicated segment here to go over what it is, how it works, when we might think about applying this. Sky, if you want to take that away.
Yeah, I think I covered most of it. What we need to get next is a proposal up to move the actual funds aside into either a sub-DAO or a multi-sig. But yeah, so the idea of it is to set aside funds that can be moved quickly to anyone in the community that thinks they could take an action that would cost some smallish amount of money that could drive value to DXdao. And so it's based on some concepts that some other communities have tried in a similar way, and we've actually talked to some projects that are using their community to do all their marketing, and then they get rewarded afterwards. And so it's really trying to engage new ideas from the community to drive value to DXdao. And so this model can be applied to lots of different things. And one idea we discussed for this call is, what if we also source the community to come up with new crazy ideas for using carrots, right? And so some of those ideas will work and some of those ideas won't work. But using the wider community to try out new things is the goal. And so we can start with this Initiative Dao, and then we can also, if it works, we can apply it to other tasks or other products as well.
Cool, thank you. I got one question here, which I think you did somewhat answer, but just for programming. When is this Initiative DAO starting, and do I need any prerequisites to participate?
Yeah, so it's the exact details around the idea. There's a handful of different ways you can do this, and that is not fully decided. So we need to come to a consensus on what those details would be. One, there's a risk of giving money to just random people with a random idea and they just walk away with the money. So that is a risk. So one idea to protect against that is potentially the people should have some reputation that they've earned in the DXdao community, even if it's a small amount, and have that kind of reputation at stake, where if the money just kind of person walked away with the money, then that rep could be slashed. And so there are some opinions that would be a good idea and some that don't need that. So we need to maybe delegate, get the funds aside and delegate to maybe a smaller sub-squad or something the exact details of how to implement it. Because if we don't need to know those exact details, and we could try a few different ways. We can experiment, but we need to We don't need to have every exact detail set like before we make the proposal to start the Initiative Dao. We could figure out who wants to join the Initiative Dao, and then we could delegate some of those decisions to the people within the guidelines that are set out, the broader guidelines that are set out in a mainnet or a XDAI mainnet or DXdao proposal. So that would be one idea to move forward. So hopefully could get this going like a proposal this week, and then have it passed by next week, and then start gathering interest from people that want to participate or want to be initiators with funds from the Initiative Dao.
And yeah, of course, there's some risk that maybe the funds could be taken or not used, well or with good intention. But I think with new ideas, there's always also just the risk that it doesn't work. So I think with the amount of money we're talking about, it doesn't make sense to overthink the system of like making sure the funds are, like not going to get taken. Like I think a little bit of risk there is acceptable just to experiment with the idea and see if it works. I'm going to channel my inner Chris Bleck though and ask Sky, is Initiative Dao a real DAO?
Yes, so Initiative Dao should be a real DAO.
So will there be governance as well?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I won't grill you on that. But
Maybe this is. I was going to say maybe this is why Nylan got on the stage, but what about the name?
Actually, why I got on stage. I think there are a couple of ideas for the Initiative DAO, and I think the goal is to create something very, very lean and quick to experiment with. Yes, like we're putting a bunch of money at stake that could, if this all goes to shit and people just use it to scam, then yeah, like I don't think that will happen. But yeah, the goal here is to just experiment as fast as possible, and I think it should be a DAO. But to start with, it's probably going to be a multi-sig, and yeah, I hope people here are not like I don't know, not at all, and like disgusted by the fact that I said multi-sig. But yeah, let's take 5K and experiment with it, and give our community the opportunity to yeah, to create decent stuff for DXdao.
Yeah, since we're doing it on XDAI, we could easily have it be a DAO with governance if we use like, let's say, a Moloch DAO.
I mean, I would still think it's on the complex side, like, but yeah, I mean, like
I mean, with Moloch DAOs, you can do like proposal period of 1 hour long. So it's a SIG, or we could use an actual real DAO just with settings that make it very easy to move the money.
Well, maybe what about Ross? Gusto is kind of talking about using these guilds on different chains.
Yeah, I think
for this, and maybe
guilds are kind of like an awesome idea just to use as tools. Obviously, there's a lot. Oh, Augusto's here. Yeah, yeah, I guess
get
if
up
you
here,
want to talk about that.
Gusto.
Are guilds based with tokens, or is it reputation?
They're tokens, but so there's a few ways you could do that. We could just obviously make a token that's just like a multi-sig that only you make it. Yeah, Augusto wants to talk. We could. I think there's also a rep guild. Augusto?
Yes, hola. Yes, we have two type of guilds now that are going to be used for testing in Rinkeby and Arbitrum. One is it using common ERC20 token, right? That is liquid, that you can transfer, and you can do anything that you do with an ERC20 token. And other is a reputation guild, which means it uses the same type of reputation that we use in DXdao, right? Where the reputation is not transferable. The guild has complete power to mint and burn the reputation of the guild itself. So we have these two types of guilds, and I think this will be It will be ideal to use for this for the Initiative Dao. So you get the rep guild where we can decide the initial reputation distribution, and use a guild for it. I mean, they were designed for this, so it will be
It
awesome.
should be a great sort of testing ground before we go with like a huge launch with Augur and Swapper and DXD guilds. Obviously, we're testing in testnets, but having a middle step of using it as a tooling for the Initiative Dao could be kind of cool, because obviously the funds are small.
Yeah, let's do it.
Also imagine that you can use the same address on all networks, because this is something that we are going to be doing. We have the same address on Arbitrum, testnet, and on Rinkeby, and we are going to be testing the relayer of funds between different layers. But eventually this can happen. You can have the same address of Initiative DAO in mainnet, in DXdao, in Rinkeby, in Arbitrum testnet, everywhere. So this is something that we are going to be testing too.
Cantolin in the chat is asking if anyone has any info on the distinctions between a DAO and a guild. Because we have Ross and Augusto, maybe a good opportunity to set that straight.
Sure. I guess I'll give my thoughts on this and then Augusto can go. I think so. I don't think we've actually written this up anywhere formally before, but once we're redoing the docs for governance and DX docs, which should be the next week or two, we can maybe have a page on that just describing in detail a bit kind of what the difference is. Currently, guilds. I mean, so when we launch guilds, since we now have rep guilds as well as ERC20 guilds, and there's like a bunch of features in there that does make it very similar to what we have right now in with DXvote and the DXdao guild DAO itself. There's a few things that's kind of key that it doesn't have. The main one being holographic consensus, which maybe a bit beyond the scope of like talking about it here, but it's kind of a key part of how we do governance. But the gap will sort of get larger as we move to governance 2.0, which wouldn't be covered by guilds, and so that's kind of where the gap would widen. I don't know if Augusto, you want to add to that?
Yes, the guild will be like, you can think it as a governance 0.1, something like that, where you have a very simple governance layer over a token. And that's it. If you want to use your imagination, you understand how DXdao works, that we use holographic consensus and schemes and controller. Think of a DXdao with only one scheme, with only one with one controller, and only one address that is going to be handling all the funds. Then we have DXgov 1.x, that this is what we are using right now, which is a mix of this DAO stack infrastructure and where we are going. And then you have governance 2.0 that is going to use this complete DXvote stack. So the idea is that the guild is a very simple governance layer over that can be added over a token. With multiple features that you can add. Right? You have different implementations that you can use. Is right? So it's the first thing to get started on a community or on a token or on governance. Build something very simple and grow from there.
I like the definition of it's a simpler version of a DAO, and I imagine like DAOs, guilds could take on many forms and exist kind of in a spectrum. In addition, I think within the DXdao context, one of the reasons I like the fact that we're calling them guilds is it kind of distinguishes from DXdao itself, right? So DXdao is spawning guilds in a way. And I think that's maybe easier to reason and talk about when we're not calling them the same thing as DXdao itself.
Cool, guys. Anything else here on DAOs or guilds?
Can one of the Zoomers on the stage explain to me what people mean when they say init? Init? I-N-N.
It's like I don't want to.
But it's not a Zoomer thing. It's a British thing.
Dave can
Yeah.
go for that one.
Can somebody
Wow,
from
it's
the
an English
UK
thing,
on
actually.
stage explain to me?
Is Dave away? There's no chance he's. Oh, there you go.
In it, bro. It's like isn't it, right? It's like an abbreviation of isn't it. So when you agree with someone, they say like, Dave has a really beautiful voice. Everyone on stage would say in it to like agree.
I'm 90% sure it's only a London thing.
Might be.
Like,
I don't know. Well,
if someone
in
said it to
Oxford
me,
as
I'd
well.
be like concerned.
In it.
The clash of cultures.
Could be menacing north of the wall. But
Yeah, a little bit.
Interesting. Trying to understand so much nuance.
It's the Queen's English, yeah. I'll leave it at that.
And so Init Dao is like short for isn't it Dao, which is kind of a cool, playful.
I was thinking of it more like it's kind of like initiate, like you're initiating a new idea, but it's also an initiative. And if you add an N, it becomes init Dao.
Do we call it Init Dao now instead of initiative?
I'm really disappointed to tell you guys that init.eth has already been registered.
Shocker.
Has init Dao?
Not yet.
What if you just add more N's?
Cool, guys. If there's no other questions, comments, got to move on here. Going to have to drop at the top of the hour. Want to do a quick call of attention to a Carrot AMA. We had mentioned it last week that it was potentially going to be this week. We do have a couple Carrot contributors on vacation. So we're temporarily slotting that in for next community call. That's next Thursday, I believe, the 9th. It'll also be shortly after the swapper epochs move forward, if you want a frame of reference. So expect an event to follow at the top left of our server. There's an events tab that you'll be able to subscribe to. There will also be an announcement when that's confirmed. And yes, there will be a POAP for that. That's our final topic. I actually have one more thing to call attention to. We're testing Agora Space guilds right now. I know another guild is very difficult, but ignore the guild aspect of it. It's a simple and easy way to verify your holdings. So we do have a Swapper and DXD holder channel. Originally, it was just a DXD holder channel. If you go into the links and information channel in Swapper, which I will link here for Swapper, or rules and info for DXD. Going to be changing that shortly. They have their modifications disabled temporarily. But you can verify your wallet that has DXD or Swapper. I believe the minimum threshold is 0.1 DXD or 500 Swapper. For now, of course. So verify those if you want. We have exclusive channels already starting to fill up before an announcement, and expect an announcement for that shortly as well. And that brings us to our open questions for the day. As always, anyone's welcome to ask. Come on the stage, whichever, just feel free to request. I do have a couple left with me. I do believe are related to the landing page refresh because they seem quite correlated. The first one is, has Aqua progressed recently and when will it be launched? I'm not sure. Maybe Ross.
Yeah, Ross can jump in here as well. The development of Aqua has been on the back burner since we've focused in on Swapper, Carrot, and governance. We've kind of addressed that in previous calls, so I won't go into the rationale there, but basically just to be more focused. And so there hasn't been recent development on it. There were smart contracts built that enable a fixed price sale or auction. I guess it's really more just a sale. And there's also like a framework around adding new sale mechanisms that were developed. It hasn't been audited yet. And really the only one that was developed in the front end was this fixed price sale. Ross can talk more about that. We were actually, Ross and I, talking just yesterday about Aqua because one of the things I'm working on is coordinating audits kind of for the next several months, basically with many are probably familiar that auditing firms are very booked up. So and they're expensive. So it's a delicate kind of coordinating game on that front. But we talked a bit about, whether it makes sense to actually put Aqua in the auditing pipeline. My takeaway from that conversation with Ross is I think we need to take a closer look on like the rollout strategy there. Like I think the options would be either kind of continue with what we have, or also we could evaluate what exists out there that could be forked, right? It may simply make sense to take another platform and fork it, and which would save us the auditing costs. It would be more tested and established if we can get the same or better functionality out of those smart contracts. So the short answer is not much has been done recently, but we'll, I think, be revisiting it and where it will come into the roadmap shortly.
Cool. Thank you. See your comment, Zet. We'll go to it after I finish this question. The same person asks, how about DXgov? I'm presuming they're looking at the new landing page and just seeing the new coming soon products. So not much to add than we have already. I think DXgov is basically when it's ready, but I'm not sure if there's anything to add. Ross, maybe recent developments.
Yeah, I wouldn't say. I mean, the most recent big development was Augur. So if you missed that, then that's certainly there. And as for the landing page, the links obviously don't work right now. We're just updating the documentation for DXdocs, so I'd say look out for that soon.
Excellent. And looks like maybe the last question here from Zet in the chat is, will Swapper have its own landing page? Yes, it will. We've chatted about it a couple of times. It's been teased a couple of times as well. If you go to the Medium article announcing the DXdao landing page, there's a bit of a teaser at the bottom that says, can you guess these two protocols? If it wasn't clear already, one of those is definitely Swapper. We'll confirm that now. That's Zet to answer. Answer your own question, Zet. Yeah, but one of them is Swapper, and we are expecting that very, very soon. Again, not going to give a timeline similar to Zet. There's a couple of things we have to figure out, such as where it'll be hosted, how it'll route to the regular Swapper, etc. But hopefully something that we'll be able to do in the next couple of weeks. Cool. Top of the hour here. Not seeing any other questions, and got through the ones left with me. We'll give a second to see if anything pops into the chat. Otherwise, we'll end it here.
I will just echo a question I saw in the Discord about asking about carrot tokenomics. If the meaning of that is like, how can it generate money? I mean, there is a fee that can be built in, it can be enabled for the campaigns, but there is no like native carrot token in the sense that we have like a Swapper token. When we are talking about the carrot tokens, it's the ones that are being minted with the collateral to be used in the campaigns. No native token yet, anyways.
Yet. Thank you very much, John. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else in the chat. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Tune in next week on Thursday, December the 9th, where we'll have a Carrot AMA with a POAP. You're not going to want to miss that. We'll be confirming that earlier in the week. Of course, we have someone missing. So just want to confirm they will be around, our lead dev. No POAP today, Ilpo. Cool. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you next week, December the 9th. Take care, all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Where's the POAP for the announcement of the POAP? All right, cheers, guys.
Cheers.